Hey, it's Denise, and I wanted to talk about, again, something that, we've been dealing with certain products becoming harder to find. Most recently, it's been canning supplies. And now I had heard, and when I went to look into it for myself, sure enough, it was true. People are saying there may be a seed shortage for next year as far as gardening, planting seeds, because just like a lot of people have taken up canning for the first time in light of the whole pandemic situation, and they want to have some food security, people are also taking up gardening for the first time. And people are perhaps also way overbuying the amount of seeds they actually need. The average seed packet, unless if you're a commercial farmer, obviously you're buying large volumes of seeds. But for the average family garden, if it's not your main source of food, like if you don't live on a farm where you produce all of your own food, a packet of seeds of any given thing is generally plenty. You don't usually even use the whole packet. But as people, just like we couldn't get toilet paper, and I know by me you still can't get a can of Lysol, just like the canning supplies have become difficult to find, a lot of the seed companies, especially the non-GMO heirloom variety seeds, which personally I prefer to use, although sometimes I plant hybrid plants, and there's also seed saving, which is sort of a little adventure of its own in terms of plant genetics. But if you save seeds from a hybrid, you're not going to get the exact same thing that the hybrid seeds gave you. Or if you buy, say, for example, at the store, you buy a pepper, and you don't know for sure if that was a hybrid or an heirloom, which is a generation after generation produces the exact same thing, variety. A lot of times hybrids are more commercially viable because they will perhaps travel better, have a longer shelf life, be more uniform in size. All the fruits on the plant ripen at the same time, making harvest easier. So that's why commercial growers tend to prefer hybrids. A lot of backyard gardeners, though, prefer the quality and consistency of the heirloom varieties. Now, if you buy hybrid seeds, that individual packet of seeds will grow what it says it's going to grow. But think of it as like if you've, crossed a beagle and a basset hound, you're going to get a hybrid. You're going to get a dog that's got qualities of both. If you took two beagle basset hound crosses and bred them, the puppies aren't all going to look the same. Some are going to look more beagle, some are going to look more basset hound. That's kind of what you get when you save the seeds from a hybrid fruit or vegetable. So, is it still worth planting? Are you probably still going to get a vegetable? Yes, but is it going to have all the same characteristics as the original plant? Probably not. So that's just a quick what's what with if you save seeds from something and you're not sure. Like you save seeds from, for example, these, turn my annoyingly bright light, I'm sorry. It goes from like annoyingly bright to, are we in the dungeon? It's hard to find the right place. There's no overhead lighting here, so that's what I got to work with. But you see these little seeds here? These I saved from some peppers from the store. Now, they were yellow and red peppers. I have them, when I took them out of the pepper, I then just put them out on the plate, left them on the kitchen counter for 2.5, 3 days so that they could fully dry out. And I was just getting ready to put them in a bag when I thought, you know what, this would be a good time to talk about the fact that people should be buying seeds if they can get them still, and saving seeds if they are having trouble buying them. That is, assuming you're potentially interested in doing any sort of gardening. And when I say gardening, it can be outdoor, regular old in-the-ground garden, it can be container gardens, it can be trellis gardening. Some people just grow on their patio. You can do hydroponic gardening. I happen to, I've done videos where you've seen my aero gardens, so I have several aero gardens to do hydroponic gardening. But certain things you can't really grow in a hydroponic garden, like root crops, say carrots, turnips, potatoes. Those kind of things are not going to grow hydroponically. Those you're going to have to grow in soil. Now again, it could be in a container if you don't have good soil, or you don't have your own soil. Maybe you're in an apartment and you're going to be growing on your hopefully sunny balcony. But like I was saying, I saved these seeds from the peperas that I got from the store. They could be hybrids, I don't know. But to me, it's worth a try, so I just labeled it. And to let myself know for when I'm planting them, I wrote yellow and red bell pepper, store-bought, and the date. So, something also that beginning gardeners sometimes don't realize, and I'm sure the seed companies are very happy that they don't realize, is that seeds, if you properly store them, can stay good for years. Now, that first year, you'll probably get higher germination rate. Your germination rate is probably going to drop a little bit with each year that you store them. But people plant 5, sometimes 10-year-old seeds and still get some results. I wouldn't count on every single seed still being viable. You would want to plant more plants to, because say if your germination rate would have been 90% the first year. After a few years, maybe it's down to 50%. So you're going to want to plant more seeds to make sure you get enough plants. And I also made a note, that it was store-bought, so that I realized this is potentially a hybrid seed. So don't plant 10,000 of these, because I'm not really sure what they're going to produce. But they're still worth saving, and why not grow a few and see what they produce. Another thing, and I have some that I saved, if I could find them. It would look so much nicer to show you the ones that I saved the other day, because it was raining all day today, like really raining, and I just ran outside before I decided to do this video and grabbed 2 dead heads off the daisy plants that have died back. Now, normally, like the one that I already saved, you would do this when they were really dry. You'd wait for, you'd get these after the plants, the flowers had died back, and you would make sure that your flowers were, pretty dry. You wouldn't grab them while they were literally still being rained on, like I did. But I just wanted to be able to show you. Now, these are daisies. What's left here is the, what's left of the petals that have died. What we're interested in, though, is the centers. So if these were still white petals, which these were, your standard white daisies that are perennial, I live in zone 4B. It regularly gets to, we have bursts of minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit every winter. So it gets cold here, and these are perennial. So I know this is a variety that grows well for me. It's been in my garden for a couple of years now. And I thought, you know what, why don't I save some seeds, and I can grow a few more plants in the spring to put into my garden. Now, like I said, I saved one already and let the seeds dry, but I just wanted to show you how easy it is. And basically, all the just black stuff in the middle there, that's your seeds. I'm gonna put this plate here, and okay, as I'm pulling them out, and again, this is wet, and you would much rather do this when it's dry, and they would kind of fall out almost like the fuzzy parts of a dandelion. These are not falling. Okay, they're starting to come out. These are wet, but I can show them to you now that I have them pulled out, that you can see that they are in fact, even though they're clumping together, the individual seeds that you would be planting to plant more daisies, you know, to make more daisy plants in the spring. They're clumped together because these happen to be wet. But if I needed more of these, I could spread these out. Again, leave them on the paper plate. I just leave them on my kitchen counter. And let them dry out. And once they're completely dry, label them and put them in a bag. The seed companies would love you to think that you have to throw out all your seeds if you didn't use them this year. The important thing is to protect them from humidity and extremes in temperature. So basically, if you keep them in a climate-controlled room where they're relatively cool, and you keep them in some sort of airtight container so they're not getting moist, your seeds should be fine. And especially if we're looking at a seed shortage, you know, don't throw away those extras that you didn't plant this year, just in case there is some difficulty getting new ones in the spring. And again, I've just heard it mentioned, and when I checked out some of my favorite websites, sure enough, they were sold out of almost everything. And these are large companies, you know, I mean, I should rephrase that. One of my very favorites is actually a family-owned company, but they sell a massive number of seeds. That would be Baker Creek Seeds. You can find them at rareseeds.com. But the fact that they were out of so many of their seeds, I mean, it's late in the season, yes, but usually places still have a good number of things. I mean, they're going to be out of some of the most popular things, especially if they're relatively new or something that's hard to get. But even things that they normally would have plenty of, they were out of. And I went on and I checked Johnny's Seeds, which is another good heirloom, usually, you know, seed source. They were pretty much sold out. I checked seedsnow.com, inexpensive, also a good place that I've bought seeds from. They're sold out of almost everything. So I was like, there's definitely something to this rumor starting that we might have a seed shortage. We might have people hoarding seeds. So the more you can do to make use of the ones you have and to try to save your own, I'm thinking the better. Now, the other part is, and here's a confession, folks, I have a really big seed collection. It is so not organized that I'm not going to make you look at it, because it really needs to be organized. I mean, most of my seeds are properly labeled and stored, but then they're just in plastic bags shoved in this box that's like they're overflowing now. I need to find something to organize them in. Been kind of thinking about that the last few days, but I haven't been feeling well the last few days. Today is the first day that I actually woke up without a really bad headache and my legs aching. So today I just kind of was like treating myself a little sort of gently and not doing anything major at all, and definitely was not doing the hair color with the chemical smells because I didn't want to re-trigger the headache. But let me show you some things. Not the big scary box of seeds, but these are some seeds I picked up. In fact, I'm trying to think. Most of the stuff in here I picked up in like Dollar Tree. Right down to the little container that says flowers and garden. But these are just some useful things that you can get inexpensively if you can find them. And you can get seeds. You don't have to go to a fancy seed company. Most of these are ones that I grabbed recently, meaning within the last few months. Now, here where I am, and this year I didn't do really an outdoor garden because just physically I can't do a lot of it. And this year I am single, so I did not have my partner of the previous 4 years to help me. So I didn't want to start a garden that I wouldn't be able to take care of, because there's no convenient way to water a garden in the spot where I am allowed to have a garden. Now my little shady, semi-shady perennial garden is off to the side yard and no one really cares about it, and I don't water it, and those plants are well established. And they're also mostly plants that are native to the area, so they don't really need my attention. Whereas a vegetable garden, a new flower garden, especially if I'm doing them in containers, they do need to be watered regularly, and I just didn't want to set myself up for that this year. But I'm thinking next year I might be doing a little more gardening. So I did pick up seeds. Now, these are like some of the like cheap brands, like they say 99 cents on them, but honestly I think they were like 4 for $1 at the dollar store. I think I have a couple that I ordered from Burpee mixed in here, and that was just recently, like just this past week. I ordered them when I realized, like, hey, what's going on? People are right, you know, I can't find the seeds I would usually find, because I don't always think about next year's garden instantly, you know. I sometimes wait till this time of year to order my seeds, and I don't usually have a problem. So I ordered these from Burpee, a variety of marigolds, and a hybrid variety of pumpkin that I've never grown before. They're a small pumpkin. But mostly I got like, mostly what I picked up were like dollar store seeds. And I got greens like Swiss chard, I got some peppers, I got kohlrabi, which I have never actually grown, but I've watched videos of people growing it and they seem to speak highly of it, and I thought maybe I'd give it a shot. It's something that I would definitely want to do in soil. Some yellow squash, you know, like similar to zucchini, but you know, a summer squash. I got more bell peppers, zinnias, which I love. I don't know what possessed me to buy hot peppers because I don't eat them, but hey, sometimes it's nice to be able to give them to people who like them, especially if there's something that grows relatively easily. I got some radishes. I got some, just a Danvers half long, which is a common variety of carrots, especially if you have sort of dense soil. And, you know, you're not going to get perfect long carrots unless you have really loose, light soil. So if your soil's a little more dense, you do better going with one of the varieties that are a little bit shorter. So, you know, I felt like I got a pretty good variety. And of course, like I said, I've got the monster collection, some of which are seeds that I've already grown some of, you know, so they're not full packets, but I definitely save them because, like I said, as long as you keep them in plastic bags and stuff, they're probably going to be good for at least several years. The other things I wanted to show you are things that I personally find helpful when you're getting your plants started. Because I live in a relatively cold area and we do have a, you know, somewhat short growing season, we, if it's something that you can start indoors ahead of time, I like to, so that I'm putting out an established plant instead of starting from seed and getting a better chance that it'll have, like something like tomatoes or peppers. They need that extra like 4 to 6 weeks of starting the plant indoors, because if I waited and direct sowed a seed outdoors, it might not even get a chance to ripen the tomatoes before we had our first frost. So you can get like these at the dollar store or probably Walmart or anywhere. Just the little plastic write-on labels that when you start your plants, which again, I have a big surprise, a couple different things that you can start your seeds in. This is something else I did. I saved some zinnia seeds and marigold seeds. And to make sure they were 100% dry, I just put them in these little, there's a word for this, taffeta bags, and then I can put them in plastic bags because they were a little bit bigger seed, and I wanted to make sure they really dried all the way through. But they're part of the box of overflowing seed madness. But back to what you can start your seeds in. You can do trays like this, like the individual cells. Got a stack of those. You can do just open flats. Now, the open flats are nice in that you can put a lot of seeds, but unless you're going to be separating them out when they're really small, the problem I sometimes have with these is that your root systems can start getting entangled. Whereas something like this that keeps the plants a little more separate from each other, you have less chance of their root systems growing together, especially if you're trying to let your plant get a little bigger before you transplant it. Another option, something that I did this year, is these little grow bags. Now they're biodegradable. They feel basically like they're made out of like what a tea bag is made out of, some sort of paper, and you just fill them up with like your garden soil or seed starting mix, whatever you're gonna use as your growing medium, and you plant your seeds in there. And just like I use the flats, I'll stand a bunch of these in a flat. You still have to watch. Eventually, as your plant gets big enough, the roots will start to grow through these papers, and they can want to attach to their neighbor. But I like these, and you can get a couple hundred of them, not very expensively. I believe they sell them on Amazon. That's where I got them. Something else, so say you do your flat or you do your seed cells, whatever, make sure you label them with what variety they are, so that when it does come time to plant them outside, you haven't lost track. And believe me, it's easy to think you're not going to lose track of, oh, I put the tomatoes on this side and I put the peppers over here. But then somebody moves them, or you move them, or you forget which side you put which one on. So invest in the little labels, of some kind. You can use popsicle sticks and write on them what it is, and just put it in the tray. If that whole tray is that thing, you just need one marker. If you're putting a bunch of different plants, obviously you'd want each one individually labeled. Other things, especially if you're going to be doing container or trellis gardening, you may find that you want some twine. This is just like jute twine. Inexpensive way, you just cut pieces off, and you can help train your plants to whatever you're trellising them up. Like use a loop of this to tie your tomato plant or your squash to your trellis or your tomato cage. Or tomato cages are not the greatest in my mind. Tomatoes almost always grow taller than tomato cages, and then you have them looping back over, which you don't want. So I like to stake them up to something taller, like a cattle panel, make a trellis out of a cattle panel, or you can use just like those, sometimes you've seen like those curlicue, usually they come in like bright colors that you can stick into a planter, and you can encourage your plant to attach to that. This just kind of helps get it established. These I like also for that purpose, especially if your tomatoes are starting to get heavy, they're starting to set fruit, and those branches need some support so that they're not sagging over or they're not breaking from the weight of the fruit. And yes, tomato is a fruit, if you're thinking tomatoes are vegetables. No, from a botanical point of view, they are fruit. Why can't I find the end? There's the end, just to show you. It's like a flexible wire with a soft rubber coating on the outside, so that you give your plant a little room so that you're not digging into it, and you're not, as it grows and the stem gets thicker, you want to make sure that you've curved this and tied it off allowing room for the stem to get thicker so that this won't be digging into it and damaging the plant or stunting its growth. But you can cut it into whatever lengths you need. I've ended up cutting it like it's sort of almost like making like, you remember in school when they made like the paper loops and you made a chain out of them? You can kind of do that with these and help maybe get that fallen over tomato plant that's got a bunch of tomatoes on it, support it back more upright and attached to whatever fencing or trellising that you're using. So these are all things, like I said, that I got, other than the couple packets that were from Burpee. These were all things that I got basically at the dollar store this year. And the other trays you can pick up, I've gotten them like at Walmart or Home Depot. I've ordered them online. It's just, like I said, first it was the canning jars, and I guess it makes sense that the next thing that people, if they were worried about canning, then maybe they're planning on growing their own stuff for the first time as well. So maybe that's why we're seeing suddenly that seeds are in higher demand and they're not as easy to get for those of us who are used to buying them every year. But I hope you learned something. I hope it gives you some inspiration. I always tell people, plant a garden on whatever scale you can, whether it's a small hydroponic garden, whether it's a patio planter, whether it's an end table that has a grow light over it and just a little container garden, maybe even just the herbs that you're going to use in your kitchen. Or you could be a crazy person like me and have winter squash growing in your hallway. Yeah, I did it just to see if I could do it. And I'm doing it. Next year, I will definitely put them somewhere other than the hallway because they have completely taken over. But that's in a separate video. I showed you that last week. Anyway, if you are inspired to try to grow your own food, which is a great thing, and it's a great thing to teach your kids if you have kids, we've become so separated from where our food comes from. If you're not growing your own food, then support local farmers through your farmers markets, or if your grocery store advertises that they sell local produce as opposed to some of the larger stores which are shipping it across the world, support the local farmers whenever you can. But if you have you don't have to have a super green thumb to get some small things to grow. Usually if you just do a little bit of reading, a lot of times the seed packets themselves will tell you what you need to know. But otherwise, just look at some videos or Google some information on the particular plant you want to grow and get some ideas from people, and maybe specify growing it in your state or your zip code and getting an idea of how it does in your area. Maybe I live in the northeast of the United States, so I like to get plants that have a relatively short season and that, are as cold tolerant as possible for their, type of plant. I like to go for a variety that is cold tolerant. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. I hope it inspires you. And please hit the like button. Feel free to check out my other gardening videos. I also do unboxing and review videos and videos that are pretty much just my opinion on things, including weight loss. I had weight loss surgery. I did lose about 100 pounds that way, and sometimes I talk about it in videos or my opinions on disabilities and hidden illnesses. So you can check those out if you're interested. And thank you for hanging in there. It took longer than I thought it would, and just be very grateful that I didn't decide to try to go through that whole big box of ginormous seeds that need organizing. Maybe once I get them organized, I'll show them to you in another video. Have a great day, and thank you for watching.